Hi guys, James again, back with another video already. Yay! It was one of the two that I had been deciding to do before I did the other top 10 thrillers, and I'm like, well, I really want to do this one as well, so I'm going to do this one right after. Well, not right after, but shortly after. And this one, I kind of got I couldn't get the title down right, but I'm going to settle on top 10 movie duos, because it's sort of like duos or team-up movies that involve basically two main characters, man, woman, man, woman, whatever. Just two main actors going on a journey or doing something. So top 10 movie duos. All right, starting with number 10. This is a movie called Diamond Men, and I heard about this from a customer when I was working at Rogers Video, and we had the movie to rent, and he had watched it and he recommended it, and it was actually really good. It's not like a terribly exciting movie. It's pretty much it's Robert Forster and Donnie Wahlberg, and Robert Forster plays a diamond salesman who services the local, they call them mom and pop jewelry stores. And he has his network of contacts, and he's well liked by everyone. But he's getting older in his age, and his company is about to be bought out, and he thinks, well, my job is pretty much going to go away. And so he's tasked with training his replacement, a younger upstart salesman played by Donnie Wahlberg. And these guys sort of strike up a business relationship, and that turns into a friendship, mutual respect. And like as I said, it's not a terribly exciting movie, but it's very well written, very well acted. It's just one where it's great to see these two on screen interacting. It's all about the interaction between the two of them. That's the whole crux of the movie, I guess. Everything else is just background scenery and just like enjoy the ride. Okay, that one was Diamond Men. The next one, number 9, is a Ben Wheatley film, another Ben Wheatley film called Sightseers. This one is weird, as I guess a lot of his are. This involves a man going on a road trip in a caravan trailer with his girlfriend, and they inadvertently they inadvertently go on a killing spree. Oddly enough, they end up killing one person, and then they're trying to get through their holiday, and they just keep killing people, and that doesn't seem to bother them a terrible amount. And it comes to a somewhat disturbing conclusion, but it is a very amusing interaction between the two. What is it? It's Steve Oram and Alice Lowe. It's made in the UK. It wasn't anyone that I really recognized in this film, but for actors that you've never seen before, I think they did a great job, and they had great chemistry on screen. Very quirky. Yeah. Well, it's listed as a horror comedy. I would call it a black comedy. But there are some, I suppose, horrific things that transpire in the film. So that is Sightseers. Number 8, we have a movie called Robot and Frank. This one's cute. It's very charming. This one takes place, they say, in the near future. And it's basically a retired older gentleman. He's a former jewel thief, cat burglar, and it's played by Frank Langella. And it also has, who is it? I think it's his name. Peter Sarsgaard plays his son. There's also James Marsden, Liv Tyler, Jeremy Sisto, Catherine Waterston, and Susan Sarandon. And he gets this gift from his son, who takes care of him, of this little robot. It's almost like a Robbie the Robot thing, but it's It's voiced, I believe, by Peter Sarsgaard, and basically his son gives it to him as a companion. It's just this little thing about this high, I suppose. And well, I'm sitting down, so this high is like probably up to your waist when you're standing up. And he becomes his friend, but he also enlists its help in possibly planning another jewelry heist. And most people aren't taking him seriously because he's just an old man, old retiree who is slowly slipping into dementia. He's got a touch of Alzheimer's, and it's just sort of it's a quirky comedy drama, and it's funny, the interaction between this older gentleman and his robot friend, and the misadventures they get into. So that one's called Robot and Frank. Number seven's another Canadian film by Bruce McDonald. One of his first, I think it might have been his second. I think he did one called Roadkill, which I have never seen, never been able to find. But this one is called Highway 61. And I found this one on VHS years and years and years ago. And it stars Don McKellar and Valerie Bohagiar? I can't remember. But it's basically, he's a barber, and he picks up this hitchhiker, this girl, and they make a deal that he'll drive her and her brother's corpse in this coffin, it says, in this coffin across the country. And at the same time, this other guy, claiming to be the devil, played by Earl Pascoe, and he's a Canadian actor, and he's been in several things, but the one that sticks out in my mind on where I'd most notably seen him from was The Sweet Hereafter, the other Adam McGowan Canadian film I mentioned on a previous video. And in this one, like I said, he's going across country, claiming to be the devil, making deals with people. He pricks their finger, puts a Band-Aid on it, and he makes a deal for their soul. And it's like, it's a dark character he's playing, but he's playing it in a very comical fashion. You just see him. One scene that stands out to me for him is he goes to a bingo parlor, and he has the entire table that he's sitting at covered with all these bingo cards, and somebody reads out the like G4 or something, and you just see him go. He has two dabbers in each hand. He's going boom, 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 and he walks out of that place with like a whole big haul of loot because he pretty much won every game. And he ends up intersecting with these guys at some point. But it's just a good Canadian road trip comedy. Excuse me. And a really good early film from Bruce McDonald and Don McKellar, who's gone on to become a well-known Canadian writer-director. All right, number 6 is a film called November Criminals. This one is a film starring Ansel Elgort and Abigail Breslin, and I found out about this one. It was either watching The Fault in Our Stars or Paper Towns. Probably Fault in Our Stars, the movie that stars Ansel Elgort, and it was one of the trailers before it where it features, like, the trailers before a movie that feature certain stars. One of the trailers is for an upcoming film also featuring that star, and one of them was this one. And so I was excited to see this when it finally came out, and it's pretty much Ansel Elgort is a character in the movie, and Abigail Breslin plays his girlfriend. Girl he meets and becomes his girlfriend, and they go to a coffee shop, and one of the guys working there is this guy named Kevin, who's a friend of his, and he ends up, kid with a bright future, and he ends up, after they leave, a guy drives up on a motorcycle and holds up the place and guns Kevin down. And they basically the cops kind of dismiss it or bury the whole thing, and nobody seems to care. So let's see, get his character's name. Addison, I think his name is Addison, and he decides to take it upon himself to conduct his own investigation, try and find out who killed his friend and why. And in the process, he does discover some things, like how much did he really know about his friend, and his friend had kind of a dark past and may have led to his death. And it's a really sweet, not a sweet story, but a sweet pairing of these two actors, Ansel L. Gordon, Abigail Breslin, and it's an interesting mystery that they get involved in. So that's November Criminals, just from a few years ago. Number 5 is a film from Number 5 is a film from several years ago called Chasing Holden. And it's a film starring... it's a film starring DJ Qualls and Rachel Blanchard. And DJ Qualls plays a kid in university, and he meets up with Rachel Blanchard. They meet, he falls in love with her, they start a relationship, and he gets assigned a writing assignment based on Holden Caulfield, character from Catcher in the Rye, written by J.D. Salinger. And so he decides, he feels that J.D. Salinger has had the infamous reclusive writer, who at the time when this movie came out was still alive. And he feels that J.D. Salinger had a big influence on his life, so he enlists the help of his girlfriend to go on a road trip to meet J.D. Salinger. He wants to go to the town where he lives in and actually meet him. And a lot of the movie is them getting there to where he lives. I can't remember exactly. But there's a bit of, why does he really want to go and meet this reclusive writer, and he's not really telling his girlfriend everything. I think I checked this one out either when I was shortly before working at Rogers or working at Rogers. It was one of the direct-to-videos that came out, and I thought it was interesting because DJ Qualls was in it, and this was shortly after he had been in Road Trip. So it was like, wow, I want to see all the movies that these guys are in or have been in. So that's when I checked it out, and it's a well-told story. Chasing Holden. Number 4 is a film called Vincent and Roxy. This one I found just because I saw the trailer on something and it looked really, really cool. And it's a movie starring Emile Hirsch, Zoe Kravitz, let me see, there's Emery Cohen, Kid Cudi is in there. And it's sort of the typical two people from very different backgrounds meeting up, striking up a friendship and a relationship, going on the road, and then getting into a great deal of trouble. And they do, because one of them, the Kid Cudi, who I'd only seen him in Need for Speed, and most recently season 3 of Westworld, but I'd never seen him play such an evil, villainous character as he does in this one. And he's like a drug dealer, crime boss kind of thing. And it's a tragic story, but you do come to care about the relationship between Emile Hirsch and Zoe Kravitz a great deal. And you want to see them beat this evil that they're coming up against. So it is a really good one. I highly recommend it. Vincent and Roxy. I try to mention this when I can to people. Just like, movie you never heard of? Vincent and Roxy. Check it out. Number 3, we have an older movie from 1990 called Flashback. I taped this one off TV. I had the chance to pick up the DVD once, and I passed it up. I've talked about this one on the Movie Madhouse podcast before. Flashback. And it basically stars Kiefer Sutherland and Dennis Hopper. And Dennis Hopper's a young, fresh FBI agent, and he's tasked with transporting an infamous, you'd say infamous criminal, but he was basically a, oh, what's the word? Oh, he's a hippie and a former New Left radical. They say in the vein of Abby Hoffman. He's basically had been on the run from the law for 20 years, and they finally caught him. So he's tasked with transporting him from point A to point B. And of course, it's sort of, well, how did they finally catch him if he's been on the evading them for 20 years? Did he allow himself to be caught? Because he soon takes advantage of the young, naive agent, and the whole plan goes to hell, and they go on this wild adventure going across the country. And oh, it's hilarious. It's a great movie, and just to see like the straight-laced Kiefer Sutherland agent and the wild and crazy older long-haired bearded man Dennis Hopper, and just like breaking down the hard shell of the stern by the book agent until they become friends, you could say. Yeah, it's a wild movie. I highly recommend this one if you can find it. It's out there somewhere. Flashback. Great soundtrack too. I'm not usually one for a lot of 70s music, but it's got a great soundtrack. Number 2 is a movie called Gridlock'd. And it was one of the last, it's from 1997. It was one of the last movies that Tupac Shakur appeared in. And the guy was just a natural actor when he got into it. And I would consider this his finest performance by far. It was great in Poetic Justice and Above the Rim, but he's like way out in front. Him and his co-star is Tim Roth. And then you throw in Tandy Newton, Lucy Liu, and Vondie Curtis Hall, who also directed the movie. And these guys are just amazing together. They're basically two kind of hustlers. They rip off drug dealers and criminals, and Bokeem Woodbine's also in this. But they're also ultimately trying to get their insurance renewed. They don't have insurance, and without medical insurance, something happens to them and they're screwed. And I'd say that's the main focus of the film, them trying to scam their way into getting their medical insurance cards. And these guys together on screen were just gold. Like one of the best pairings I've ever seen in a movie. And Tim Roth, who's just an amazing actor anyway. And I'd say these two hold their own against each other. Gridlock'd. And number one, we have a movie called Plunkett and Macleane. And this one it's back from 1999, but it takes place, 1748 England. So there's sort of Robert Carlyle and Johnny Lee Miller are the two stars of this, and they're two sort of criminals who meet up, and Johnny Lee Miller is sort of like the aristocratic type, or at least masquerading as that, and Robert Carlyle was already a criminal highwayman. And they meet up and they decide to go on the road together, robbing people. Probably mostly, it's almost like a Robin Hood thing, robbing from the rich and then keeping it kind of thing. And they also run into Liv Tyler, who's basically she's not exactly the love interest, but she's the lead female in the movie. And when I saw this one, I was just blown away by it. Directed by Jake Scott, who is the son of Ridley Scott. And there was something interesting about it, because when I had seen, and this is not a tangent, but I had seen one of my favorite trailers of all time for a while was Romeo Must Die, the Jet Li movie. And while it's still a pretty cool movie, the music in the trailer always made the trailer stand out for me. And so when I saw this movie, There's a great scene in the movie towards the end, and the music from that trailer plays over this. And it's composed by a guy named Craig Armstrong. And I'm like, oh my God, that's the music from the trailer I'd heard. And I was able to find the soundtrack. And it's one of my favorite score soundtracks I've ever listened to. But the adventure that these guys go on, and it is pretty great. And it's a beautiful looking movie. Like the costumes, I really wish this one had been nominated for an Oscar for Best Costume and like cinematography, production design, because it's just a gorgeous looking movie. Like all the sets and the costumes are doing. I say costumes way too many times. But yeah, it's, let me see, there's any other notable actors in there. Ken Stott, Alan Cummings in there, Michael Gambon, Tommy Flanagan. Yeah, it's got a great cast, and it's a gorgeous movie. So, short and sweet. Wanted to get this one done. Glad I did. I hope you enjoyed it. So I'm not sure what the next one will be, but I won't do a third one this week. That don't want to overload anyone. All right then. Well, you guys take care. Thanks for watching, and toodles. Toodles.